Hello, this is Elif from ARIQuestions.com. Today's video is about how to read and analyze NCARB's ARI questions. In this video, I will solve a question provided in the free NCARB Practice Exam. I'm sharing this content solely for educational purposes. This question is NCARB's intellectual property, and I am not claiming ownership of it. I highly encourage you to explore NCARB's free practice exams. So let's begin. This is a PJM question from the NCARB free practice exam. I use NCARB questions to do this analysis because those are closest to the real deal when it comes to like wording and everything. So the question says the architect has just completed 60% of the construction documents when the owner decides to proceed with the revised building program. The architect needs to evaluate the effects of the changes on the project and communicate them to the owner. How should the architect respond to changes in the program? Check the three that apply. Here, I prefer to pause before reading the options and highlight. So let's do that. Based on my first take of reading the question slowly and carefully, I think it's important that the question mentions 60% of the construction documents. 60% or given any percentage regarding the progress is a very specific information. In most of the NCARB questions, if there's a specific number that is relevant to the correct answer. So you cannot just say, oh, that's irrelevant, that's just a number. No. Too specific to be there type of information is there for a reason. Okay, don't skip that. The other one, it says proceed with the revised. I think the word revised is very important there. The building program is now revised. Owner made a change. It is significant. And the third part is like architect needs to evaluate the effects of the changes. So architect is expected to make sure the impacts of these changes and communicate them to the owner. So the correct options should include some sort of communication to the owner and evaluation by the architect. So now let's look at the first option. It says prepare an additional services proposal for the revised design. So who do you prepare this for? To the owner, right? And what did the question say? Communicate them to owner. So when you provide an additional service proposal for the revised design, you are doing it to communicate to the owner. The other thing is the word revised, right? It says proceeded with the revised building program, proposal for the revised design. So you are doing a revision on your design and you have to communicate to the owner. I think option A checks a few points in the question. So I'm gonna highlight it with green. Then option B says review an updated estimate of the construction costs with the owner. So again, you are communicating with the owner. Okay, that's important. And you are evaluating the impacts of this change by updating the estimated construction cost. So do you see how the concepts are matching between the option and the question and how they are responding every point or every issue that is highlighted in the question? That's how you decode the correct answers, okay? This is how you should read every NCARB question, regardless of the exam. Okay, C says, provide an addendum to the documents in order to clarify the changes for the contractor. If you did not read carefully, you would be like, you know what? Changes and revision are the same thing, and the documents need to be updated. But are we at the construction phase? Do we have a contractor? Is there anywhere in the question that says anything about a contractor? No, it's about architect and the owner. Architect has to communicate the change with the owner, not with the contractor. And the project is still in construction documentation phase. We are nowhere at the construction phase, right? CA phase. So eliminate C, that's irrelevant. Option D says, notify the local building code official of the revised program and the change in the occupancy. You did not submit the documents. You are still at the CD phase. This is not approved by the local building officials. So they don't know the earlier version. Why would they worry about something that's still in the making, right? They need the final product and you are not there yet. So again, this is the 60% was not given to you randomly. That is relevant. So you can identify the incorrect options. It says resubmit the design development documents to owner for review of the revised program. Again, I mean, this is too obvious. It says communicate them to the owner and there is a revision, right? But it says the design development documents.
So this part's revised program matches perfectly. To the owner matches perfectly. So this could fool you easily if you did not read this design development documents. So this is talking about DD phase. We are in CD phase. So you don't need to resubmit the DD. You need to do the revisions on the CD phase because you are at the CD phase. You are not like going back now. Actually, the option E could be a question mark. You would be between option E and let's see if the third one is going to be option F, let's say. I should have put a question mark there because that was like very close because of this second portion of it says to the owner to review the revised program, right? And it says building program and it says communicate to the owner. And the last one says, though, establish a revised construction start date and determine its impact on the substantial completion date. So when you need to do this kind of revision, you will need time, obviously, because you are already at 60%, but this is going to create a setback because it's revised now. It will also impact the entire project schedule, including the construction start date or substantial completion. It's going to have a ripple effect through the whole process, right? And the question said, review and evaluate the effects of the changes. The ripple effect on the project schedule is something that you need to evaluate. That's why I think F is a better option than E, and it kind of belongs in the correct question group because it matches a few points in the question. If it didn't say design development here, E would also be correct.